Hello, everyone's there. We're good. We're having a good time. I'm definitely not stressed. You know what? Shh, you can be quiet. Okay. When was the last time you went to the theater to see a Marvel movie? Marvel films used to be a huge event that I would leave school early for just to go see the movie. Now they're just really just an afterthought. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who got excited when a new Marvel movie was released. And especially with the culmination of Infinity War and Endgame, I knew all of my friends went to those movies, and I skipped the whole day of school for it. So I've seen pretty much every Marvel movie, even the recent ones and the ones that are going to come out here soon. And I've seen the decline in quality, and they were pretty bad. So my main goal is to show you why Marvel was at the top of its game in the 2010s, and how today it's just super lackluster and no one really pays attention to it anymore. So we're going to start taking a look at the originality of the MCU, the character development, and finishing off with the emotional connection and the box office numbers. So, in the early days of the MCU, Iron Man was released, and it shook up the whole superhero genre as a whole, and this film was quickly followed up with Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, and the culmination of those films together was the Avengers, and that was a huge film. These movies set the standard for the superhero genre and created a cult-like following. Bold choices were made in the making of early Marvel movies, like the storytelling and the diverse character arcs that set Marvel movies apart from the rest, like DC and other superhero movies that have been released. Present Marvel really can't say the same. Most of the newer movies feel like a cookie-cutter and formulaic kind of pattern, relying on established tropes and a predictable pattern and a pretty predictable ending. And this is probably due to the fact that a lot of the familiar faces have left with the ending of Endgame, and they're no longer in the MCU, like Steve Rogers, the actor who played Steve Rogers in Iron Man, no longer being a part of the MCU. A recent MCU movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, was played with poor script writing and that cookie-cutter design, as I mentioned earlier. This IMDb reviewer, right here, they said, this is the full quote here, I'm just going to paraphrase it right here. The reviewer said, "The movie is okay, Christian Bale is awesome, Chris, being Chris Hemsworth, still can't act, but we never liked him for his talent. Rest of the cast brings what they have to the movie is an average Disney factory work." And this just drives home the point that the average consumer can see the cookie-cutter mentality, and the MCU has kind of lost its originality. Speaking about originality and characters, 2010's Marvel forged deep connections with character development than present Marvel does. The origin stories for many familiar faces in the MCU seem to captivate audiences, and the later developments of these characters kept us coming back for future installments. Newer characters seem to not be getting the same treatment, and instead they just get like a Disney Plus series that a lot of people just don't really want to watch. One of those series being She-Hulk and Miss Marvel. Many people spoke out about the failures of She-Hulk, me being one of them. I couldn't stand it. I only watched like 1 or 2 episodes and I was finished with it. One commenter wrote, this is the full quote, and it's really, really long, so I just kind of paraphrase it here. That commenter wrote, "Walters came across as obnoxious, vacuous, and full of herself. There was no effort made at all towards character development in the first episode, which looks like a poorly crafted music video from the 90s. Other characters that don't get enough love in present Marvel are the villains like Loki and the Winter Soldier, who was my personal favorite. They had their own development, which in turn gained massive popularity. I remember one of my high school best friends, her name was Autumn. She loved Loki just for his character and the actor that played him and his development." Okay. Newer antagonists seem to be lacking in depth and complexity that was so common for villains in the early Marvel era. I think the most recent person who had the most complexity would be Thanos, but that's kind of the most recent one. As stated before, these characters developed over multiple films. For example, Tony Stark that debuted in Iron Man is not the same Tony Stark that we saw in Endgame. Something else that 2010's Marvel does better is shown in Endgame. Endgame made many people emotional at the death of Tony Stark, including myself. This is due to the buildup of his character and how we have seen the character grow throughout each film. The audience holds a shared journey with these characters that contrast with the newer generation of MCU films. The storylines leave a lasting impression on the audience, like the struggle of sacrifice that Steve Rogers feels. And another point is how the MCU has impacted culture in particular. For example, with displaying diversity through many movies like Black Panther, which is one of my favorite movies. The quality of 2010's MCU isn't just seen in the films, it's also seen in the box office. Almost every MCU film in the 2010s had above a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. Since then, Marvel has recorded some of its worst ratings since Thor: The Dark World. According to Rotten Tomatoes, as seen here, these are some of the earliest phase, and as you can see here, these are two of its lowest rated movies. And this is according to Rotten Tomatoes, obviously. Also, looking at worldwide box office sales, excluding Endgame and Infinity War, which are the two big peaks here, those passed $2 billion. Only two movies reached over $1 billion since the release of Endgame, and those two movies were Spider-Man films. This just proves my point that when Marvel diverges from familiar faces, the product in storytelling suffers. To bring this to a close, just looking at the numbers alone, it seems that 2010's Marvel is just better than current Marvel. 2010's Marvel had better originality, character development, emotional connection, and box office numbers, proving that it was the golden age of the MCU. I just hope that in the future, the directors and the higher-ups can return to this golden age. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yay! You did so good.
Oh, wait, I gotta show everyone.